Even when Bill Clinton was firing missiles and destroying aspirin factories in desperate moves to change the subject from his personal issues, most Americans had some confidence that the I's were being dotted and the T's were being crossed on America's national security. At that time, politics was not allowed to infiltrate national security, defense, and law and order issues. That has all changed in the era of the Marxists of BLM, the lies told by the likes of Adam Schiff, the dalliances of Eric Swalwell with a spy from China, and a Biden regime that most Americans believe, according to the polls, has been compromised by our communist enemy, China. And that leads us to the alleged good news from the Biden regime yesterday. I say alleged because we've been given this same good news before, but it ended up being fake good news. The killing of the new al-Qaeda frontman, Ayman al-Zawahiri. Biden spoke about the strike yesterday.
At my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan, that killed the emir of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. You know, Zawahiri was bin Laden's leader.
Okay. For the record, Zawahiri was bin Laden's lieutenant, not his leader on 9/11. But if true, yesterday's strike has taken a major planner of terror off the board. That's good. But the death of al-Qaeda's new grand poobah confirms what conservatives like me have said about Joe Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan from the very beginning. In one swoop, Joe Biden and his Democrat Party negated 20 years of war, American blood, and treasure by making Afghanistan home once again to the same people who attacked us on 9/11. To make matters worse, Joe Biden left the terrorist Taliban and the resurgent al-Qaeda $86 billion in weapons and equipment in the worst foreign policy disaster for the United States in the modern era. In a manner of speaking, the Democrat Party and their leader, Joe Biden, facilitated al-Qaeda's Build Back Better resurgence. Now, they have their old base of operations back, access to billions of dollars in equipment and weapons, and a terrorist government in charge of Afghanistan so they can plan new terrorist operations, something the Biden regime admitted today that al-Qaeda is doing.
We've made it very clear that this was a violation, not that we believe, not that we think, it was a violation of the Doha Agreement, which specifically says that it commits them to not allowing Afghanistan to be used as a safe haven or a launching pad for attacks against the United States or other of our allies and partners. And clearly, because Mr. Zawahiri was not only there, but was actively encouraging his followers to plot and plan attacks against the American interest and the American homeland.
Do not forget, remember this, it was Joe Biden and the Democrats who flushed 20 years of American sacrifice down the toilet, letting the Afghan government collapse due to Biden's irresponsible and deadly withdrawal from Afghanistan. Other big story today is Nancy Pelosi, of course. She has touched down in Taiwan. Let me be plain. This move is potentially very brave. If Beijing's saber-rattling is genuine and not political theater for local consumption, Pelosi could be risking her safety. But also consider this. Elected leaders have been going to Taiwan from the United States throughout this year. There was no fuss made about all of that. Why now? Why all the drama generated by Pelosi's office, the Pentagon, and the Biden White House? As stated, the polls show a majority of Americans think Joe Biden is doing China's bidding. Is it out of the realm of possibility that this whole thing is a stunt to benefit the political factions that are in charge in both countries, U.S. and China? Consider that the Democrats have not passed one bit of legislation to counter China's aggressive behavior, for their cheating, for their unprecedented military buildup. None of it. Also consider that American officials have been leaking the inevitability of the fall of Taiwan since Joe Biden began his occupation of the Oval Office. According to reports, China is scheduled to launch a military response stemming from Pelosi's visit. The Kinmen and Liancheng counties are groups of small islands located directly off the coast of mainland communist China, but they're under the administration of Taiwan. Reports are circulating around out there, around the globe, indicating that Pelosi's visit might give Beijing a green light to assume control of these islands as a precursor to a full-on invasion of mainland Taiwan. Whether this has been done in coordination with the Biden regime and elements in our own government, well, that is a question that remains unanswered tonight. Let's dig a little deeper with our first guest. Joining me now is ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. He's also led a covert rescue effort in Afghanistan after Biden's deadly and chaotic withdrawal of U.S. troops. Oklahoma Congressman and Trump-endorsed Senate candidate Mark Wayne Mullen. Welcome back, sir. Appreciate you being here, Congressman. You heard John Kirby admit that al-Qaeda is actively using Afghanistan as a safe haven once again to plot attacks against the United States and our interest. Isn't it fair to say that Joe Biden and his political party made all of our sacrifices for nothing? We're right back where we started 20 years ago in Afghanistan.
Absolutely. We knew for a fact, all of us that have been to Afghanistan knew for a fact that al-Qaeda was simply going to backfill. I don't care what the administration was saying. I don't care what Secretary Blinken was saying, what Secretary Austin was saying, or what Joe Biden was saying. No, they got a good relationship with al-Qaeda or with al-Qaeda's leaders, and that they're not going to be coming in, or with the Taliban that said they're not going to allow them to come in. I don't care what the circumstances are. They're terrorist organizations, and they're permissible to not tell the truth. They're going to go out there and say whatever they want to appease whatever audience they're talking about. What we knew for a fact is al-Qaeda was going to use every opportunity they could to plot and plan to kill Americans. And what we saw was exactly this. Fortunately, we have CIA agents, or IC, which is intelligence community, that have stayed put at their own risk to make sure they're keeping America safe. But we've made it very difficult for them to do their job, because the way we withdrew from Afghanistan to begin with. Chris, I want to point this out. Our surrounding allies, I wouldn't really call them allies, the surrounding countries of Afghanistan, the ones that we had somewhat agreements to work with, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, in a conversation with them after our withdrawal, they were so frustrated at us because, I'm paraphrasing what they basically told me was, hey, look, before you guys came in, we're fighting guys on donkeys and at best in Toyota Tacomas. Now they have the latest and modern weapons that outpace ours. You've made our region more unsafe, not safer. So it's caused a tremendous amount of destabilization through there.
Well, you saw firsthand the chaos that Biden unleashed in the terrorist Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. You're one of the House Intel Republicans demanding the Department of Defense declassify information on that withdrawal. What do you think you're going to find if/when they agree to declassify it?
Well, I know for a fact that, and this is firsthand knowledge, because I, as most of your listeners know, and as you pointed out, to a team that I was privileged enough to be part of, we went into that region to get Americans out that Biden and his administration left behind, which we were successful in doing that. We got over 300 AMSETs, which we consider American citizens. We got over 300 American citizens out, and we ended operations around December 5th of last year. But what we saw firsthand, unfortunately, the biggest challenge we had to honestly get Americans out wasn't the Taliban. We actually had a very uncomfortable working relationship with the Taliban, meaning that we had agreed through their checkpoints how much we were going to pay to get every American out. But what was hard is when we got them to the border of Pakistan, Uzbekistan, or Tajikistan especially, trying to get the Americans across that border. That was very difficult. In fact, one Ambassador Promajin in Tajikistan, told me point blank when I called him. We had a 3-year-old that had serious medical conditions, which was an American citizen who unfortunately eventually passed away from her leg infections because we wasn't able to get her out. We had her at the border, Chris, and the Ambassador Promajin with Tajikistan told me point blank, Mr. Mullen, I'm sorry, but I was told not to assist you in any way by Washington. And I almost fell over. I said, excuse me? Our embassy, our ambassador of Tajikistan, where we were trying to come into, was told by Washington, D.C. not to assist me in any way. So when we get this stuff declassified, I want to know why that was said. I want to know why they decided to pull out earlier.
Understood. Congressman, I've got one more question. I've just got to get to this. The U.S. deployed airships near Taiwan following Speaker Pelosi's landing. on the impact of Joe Biden, General White Rage Milley's, and Lloyd Austin's policies that they have had on our military readiness. War planners from the Rand Corporation and others say America can't defend our allies, and they can't defend our national security interests, particularly microchips in Taiwan, without violating any classified information. What can you tell us about that tonight, Congressman, about our ability to defend our ally Taiwan and our national security interest, in particular the chips industry in Taiwan, from Communist China?
Well, keep in mind, for the last 20 years, we've been fighting a war on terror. And the weaponry to fight the war on terror is quite different than a conventional war. So a conventional war would be like if we went to war with China or went to war with Russia. So for 20 years, we have been focused heavily inside the DOD to develop weapons to combat the war on terror. So when we ended the war on terror and we started focusing back on China, we found that we are behind on a lot of technology. And we're probably 2 years or 3 years to be actually caught up. Now, that doesn't mean we're not making great strides. We are making unbelievable strides, and we get the full might of the American military behind and focused on getting our conventional war system back up and running. It is remarkable what we're able to do. So that's the problem we have right now, is that we're behind on the conventional weapons that we need.
Well, Congressman, you might have to get General White Rage Milley and Lloyd Austin out of the way to complete that mission, sir. Congressman Mark Wayne Mullin, sir, thank you very much for your time. Joining me now for more on this discussion, further on this, is chairman of the Stand Up for America U.S. Foundation and U.S. Army veteran retired Major General Paul Vallely. General, thank you for being here. Defending Taiwan is defending our national security. But experts are saying that our ruling class has so degraded the U.S. military with their focus on wokeness that we'd lose Taiwan to China in a direct conflict. With your connections inside the U.S. military, what can you tell us and our fellow citizens out there about that possibility tonight?
Well, I think it's true. I think the dismantling not only of our Constitution and country, but the dismantling of our military. I mean, it's incredible now, the morale, the readiness, the recruiting, and all of that. But it's a direct result of weak leadership from the executive branch and from these woke generals and admirals. I'm totally embarrassed, Chris, by our inadequacy. And guess what? Xi Jinping, Putin, they know this. They understand it. And you can rest assured they're planning something, not Russia per se, but China. And they may have let that plane land from Nancy Pelosi in the last 24 hours, but you can feel assured they have some plans ahead. We don't know what that is. I don't think our intelligence is that good anymore either, Chris.
Well, I wanted to get you to comment on this, too, because with the reported killing of al-Qaeda leader Zawahiri, we have it confirmed that al-Qaeda is resurgent, setting up shop once again in Afghanistan. Again, Joe Biden left billions in U.S. military equipment and weapons, not to mention American citizens left behind in Afghanistan. How deep, can you tell us, from the service members you've spoken to, how deep are the wounds in our military when they see the Democrats' America Last policies in action, making all of their sacrifices in the military and the sacrifices of their comrades in arms bring us right back to where we started 20 years ago in Afghanistan?
Yeah, and that's very true. I've talked to some of the special ops guys. They're totally embarrassed by the surrender and by the traitorous actions of leaving 85 billion or whatever in equipment at Bagram. Now is controlled much by the Chinese who have moved in there. And so now you have al-Qaeda there. And again, Chris, even on Zawahiri, I'm very suspicious about the report of that Hellfire strike. I'm not sure we're getting all the valid information. I think there would have been a lot more damage from that Hellfire. I mean, was he sitting out on a deck sipping some Afghan tea by himself? He's got a family. You got people around. I mean, the dereliction of duty, the lack of honesty, integrity. I mean, the lies and deception we continue to get from this administration. How can you believe them on anything at all?
Well, General, when you say lack of integrity, you can look it up in the dictionary and you can see the picture of the Biden administration in there. Major General Paul Vallely, sir, appreciate your time and your service to the country. Thank you.
Hey, guys, it's Rob Carson. With inflation at its highest level in 40 years and interest rates skyrocketing, your retirement plans are in danger. Well, our friends at American Hartford Gold can help show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. Yeah. If you call them right now, they have a special offer. They will give you a free gold coin on your first qualifying order. So don't wait. Call now. Here's the number, 866-935-4309. That's 866-935-4309, or text Newsmax to 65532. That's Newsmax to 65532. Thank you.